So let's get onto the news. And speaking of, Good Life, one of my favorite characters in all of comic books. We're going to start off with some news for her. Captain Marvel finds its directors, excuse me, in Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. The execs met with the two numerous times, and the pair impressed the studio time and time again. You might um, know them from the 2006 movie starring Ryan Gosling, Half Nelson, and Ryan Reynolds in Mississippi Grind. They
which
also
which I
direct,
don't know either of those movies, and it's not like there's small name stars in those.
yeah,
Although 2015 Ryan Reynolds is very different from pre 2010 Ryan Reynolds and post 2016 Ryan Reynolds. That was he was acting all through that, but he was not doing like big giant hit movies at that point in time
yeah,
because he was not exactly blacklisted, but wasn't getting a lot of love for the roles that he'd done before up until
yeah.
Deadpool.
He was sort of in this like weird area thing. But then they've also directed episodes of popular TV series over at Showtime with The Affair and Billions. Um, and then also it should be pointed out that Inside Out scribe Megan LaFave and Nicole Perlman, who wrote Guardians of the Galaxy and is currently co-writing or is currently writing the Gamora comic book for Marvel, are writing the script, which follows Carol Danvers, an Air Force pilot whose DNA is fused with that of an alien during an accident. The results altering her or alteration imbues her with the superpowers of strength, energy projection, and flight. Brie Larson is the star. Kevin Feige is producing. We have another one that we have another news story coming up here in a second. But so yeah, what do you think of the directors here?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't have any real familiarity with their work. It's interesting that it's a team. This is the second team directors after the Russo brothers at Marvel, and the Russo brothers, different dynamic, being that they're related. But if these two have an existing relationship of working together and they know that they can make it continue, then that's great. Also, a lot of people really felt that we needed to have a woman directing this, and I don't disagree, because part of what we want from these Marvel hero films, as more and more of them happen, is we want each of them to have their own distinct identities. You can see that in a lot of the movies that have happened so far. While some of them maybe feel a little familiar to each other anyways, like Ant-Man is akin to Iron Man in a lot of ways, while still also being able to diversify itself by saying it's a heist movie. Doctor Strange is probably the most like Iron Man in a lot of ways, except it includes all of that Inception style magic. But we want to have very distinct identities, and I think it's important in your first female-led Marvel superhero movie to have a female voice in the director's chair and female voices as the writers. So in that regard, I think that's great. I think that's the right reason to choose them. Certainly not the only reason to choose them. My one
Yeah.
concern is always, okay, we've got the star who we've had for several months now. We've got the directors. We are writing the script. That always bugs me, is that we put the story after everything else. I know that a lot of times a director comes in and they send for rewrites of the script anyways. So it may be that there was a primary script already in place, and now they're like, okay, now we're going to clean it up, or we're going to put this other team and have our spin on it because we like these people and we want to work with these people. But I'm just always kind of concerned when the story comes after and it's like, well, we just know that we want to make a movie with this person playing this hero and go from there. That's weird to me. But I guess I just don't understand how Hollywood works in that way.
And I want to say that um the writing team had already been on there, had already been attached. We already had Nicole Perlman um and Megan LaFave attached to write. It was just it wasn't as announced because a lot of people, and there are exceptions out there, a lot of people don't think the of the writers as the people who drive the movies. It's usually the directors. Um,
Yeah, and it may
Like,
be that when it says they're currently writing the script, it may be they're currently rewriting it to the tune of what
yeah,
the directors want to do, and that's fine. And like I said, Marvel hasn't done to me yet any real wrong. They've had movies that have been spectacular, and they've had movies that have been good, and everything in between that. But I have not seen from them so far a bad movie. I haven't seen a movie that I personally haven't enjoyed. I know that there's certainly opinions out there that differ from mine on things like Age of Ultron or even Civil War, some of the other ones. But I've enjoyed all of them quite a bit. So I'm not trying to nitpick this, especially without seeing anything of it so far. It's way early. I think that in Marvel's case, they also know that if something doesn't feel like it's going to go right, they're going to put a break on it as opposed to continuing forward with it until they do get it right, because they've got too much vested in this to do it. And Fahey really is a guy who understands how to make these movies hits at this point. He's been spearheading this all along, so I have to have faith in him, if nothing else. But Brie Larson is one of those actresses that just in the last few years, like, I've liked her in everything I've seen her in. I certainly enjoyed the fact that she was chosen for this role. So I can't see anything with this that doesn't make me excited for the film, more than my piddly ass little concerns.
quick question for you. Have you seen the movie It's Kind of a Funny Story?
No.
The Zach Galifianakis, Emma Roberts movie.
No.
Okay, one, I highly recommend it. Two, at least Anna Boden directed the movie. Because that's the first, like, I'm on her IMDb page, and that's one of the first things that stuck out to me, was because I had seen this movie, and it is a charming little
Anna Boden and Ryan
movie.
Fleck directed it. So and Evan,
Yeah,
producer Evan, uh, Evan Hurricane Rockdy, also gives his thumbs up to the film.
I love that nickname. But no, so this, because I like, again, like, going with that movie, and hearing that, they've done some other things, they've shown this range. I'm excited for that. The other part is that Captain Marvel is scheduled to begin filming in February of 2018. And this is Kevin Feige had a quote of, assuming everything stays on schedule, we start filming Captain Marvel in February. And it will hit theaters on March 8th, 2019. And Beatmaster threw in a quote here from Brie Larson, and who had, this is all the stuff she had to say in anticipation for playing the character. And this
She
is what
said,
she said.
I'll take this.
Yeah.
She said, aside from the fact that it's iconic to be part of this, to be playing the first female lead in a solo Marvel movie, I think for me personally, one of the things I'm excited about is the idea of female complexity. That's what I've wanted to bring to every genre and every film that I've done. How can we come to understand the mystique of being female? And I think with Free Fire, for example, what excites me is to say it's not so easy as just saying, oh, that's a girl in an action movie. That's a superhero and she's tough and she's like a dude. That's too easy. That's not where we're at, actually. I think women are far more complicated and more interesting than just saying they're like a dude and that's what makes them tough and that's what makes them cool. That's just not how it works. So to me, it's this idea of doing this film on this larger scale with really incredible, smart people behind it, with women behind it, that gives you an hour and a half, 2 hours to sit and see how different a woman can be. That seems cool to me, right? And I completely agree. And
Yes.
that's absolutely it. Is there've been the movie Salt, I believe, is one of those movies. Angelina Jolie was the lead in that, but the movie was written with a male lead in mind. And she came in later on, and they didn't really change it so much for her, but obviously she brings a different gravitas to it. She brings a very different point of view, just in the fact that she is a woman. But that's not how you write female characters. That's not how you direct a female-driven story. So I agree. It's not like we're going to get female Tony Stark. and it's not like we're going to get female Captain America. While we absolutely could, one of the things that stands out is the way that the characters interacted with each other in the Avengers movie so far. Is that when you get Black Widow, or when you get a Scarlet Witch, when you get an Agent Carter and all these things, you see the stories that can be told only with female characters, and why that's not only important but more enjoyable, because it's a whole different perspective. I liken it to what they're doing with Black Panther. Black Panther, they're making a movie and they're having Black creators involved. They're having huge casts of African American actors and actresses involved in it, and it changes the entire tone of what we've come to expect from the Marvel movies, while still being true to the Marvel films, and certainly being true to the character from the comics. It brings something different to the table, and that's far more exciting than seeing just a continuous, just dead weight of the same thing over and over again. Now, there's something comforting of being able to go to a Marvel movie and knowing what you're going to get, to at least a certain degree, of the tone. The fact that Fahey said that he's not interested in doing any R-rated Marvel films, that's not their plan ever going forward. I get that, but having them be degrees separate from each other in character beliefs, character tone, places that they're at, stories, all that stuff, that is, to me, why they've continued to be so successful. Because even if you're just a person, like my wife is excited to see the sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was kind of like trepidatious. I know that I took her to see the first one, where she really loved it, and I think she even bought me the DVD because of it. But I wasn't sure if she was going to be interested to go see the second one. But she saw the trailer the other day, and she's like, "Yeah, I can't wait to go see that with you." I'm like, "That's great. That makes me really happy." But she's not interested in any of the other Marvel movies. You know, I think I might be able to get her to watch Ant-Man, just because Paul Rudd is funny, and we've enjoyed him a lot of stuff. I mean, fucking, he was in Clueless, man. That's props right there. Is I get to say, well, you know, the guy from Clueless, you know, and she'll go, "Oh yeah, yeah." But she knows who Paul Rudd is. This is 40 is another one of those things that we really like. So the fact that she's not a Marvel diehard or even interested in watching Cap and Thor and all this other stuff, although Thor 3, I'm going to push on that one a little bit too, because it looks like it might be up her alley. She still has these certain movies in there that work for her, and that's exactly it. Is that you can be a diehard Marvel fan and just eat up every fucking thing that they do. Or you can be the person who's just like, no, I just kind of dig this shit that James Gunn is doing, or I just dig the shit like, well, there's this woman now, and why haven't I seen a woman superhero in a lead before? You know, and all these things, you can come at from a lot of different directions. And if there's enough there to pull you into the rest of the universe, then maybe, you know, it's an open door for you at that point, but you're not forced into it. It doesn't all have to, until fucking Avengers 3 and 4, it doesn't all have to intersect. But it is kind of cool that, you know, there's something there for everybody. And that, as a company of Disney, Marvel hasn't been as successful at that over time. And we've seen that they recently said that maybe diversity didn't work for them too well. But I admire them for trying. But in the films, it seems like that's working out better. We'll see. We'll have to see, because Black Panther is going to be a very different Marvel film. Yeah. To such a degree that maybe, sadly, maybe some white people aren't going to want to see it. I don't know, but that is a possibility, and I'm sure that they're aware that that could be a possibility. And having a woman lead in a film directed by a woman and written by two women, that might be another thing where some dudes are just like, "No, man, I'm a brosif. I ain't gonna go see some chick banging around. You know, where's fucking Captain America? Where's big hammer penis Thor? You know, that's what I want." You know, that's a possibility too. I don't know if that's necessarily even remotely what's going to happen, but there are people in place that are probably like, yeah, that could be the case. So again, it's slightly brave, not hugely brave, but it's slightly brave that Marvel is doing these movies at all. But they've also seen where it can really succeed for them between Jessica Jones and Luke Cage on the Netflix series. Both of those shows were better received, I think, than even Daredevil was. And I think that Luke Cage's second half of its season not as good, but Jessica Jones was great throughout, and I like Daredevil a lot too. When we got back to Standard White Boy is where things kind of fell apart for me in the Marvel cinematic TV universe. But aside from that, there's such a great amount of things that we still haven't done yet. The young Spider-Man is a new twist as well, but it's still fucking Spider-Man. I'm waiting for Runaways, maybe. I'm waiting for the Romeo and Juliet of Cloak and Dagger. I would really like a Power Pack show. We'll see how those things go. But when you have 60, 70, 80 years of characters to draw from, yes, it's harder to not focus on all the white guys that were in the leads for so many years, because that's just how it was in storytelling and comics and TV and movies and stuff in general. But we have built up a wealth of characters that should be rising to the top as well at this point. And I'm excited to see this happen.
No, definitely. I want to point out something that Beat said of probably what a lot of people are going to wonder, and he's wondering what happened to Captain Marvel, or that Captain Marvel got there first before Black Widow. Talking about a solo film, with basically Marvel's banking the fact that she's the first female lead in a superhero movie for Marvel, when here we've had Black Widow since Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
And all that. And he puts out a couple of things over here, like, was it scheduling, asking for too much, or Feige generally thinking there's more to her, and he's hoping for the latter. I think it's that one. I think, honestly, because we've had, like, with what you said, with all these various different types of movies, where we've already had the spy thriller, the political espionage type movies,
which a lot hinged on Black Widow's involvement in.
Yes, but it was involvement, not starring her, and so to have her be a lead in that might seem like, oh well, this is just like Winter Soldier, but without any of the fellas and stuff like that. But to go with Captain Marvel, it is this big difference, because she is such a different character than what they've had.
Yeah, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that when you have Black Widow, when you watch the first Avengers movie, you see the disparity between Thor, Iron Man, even Cap to a certain degree, and the Hulk, certainly. Those four, and then you have Hawkeye and Black Widow, with arrows and bullets, which it's hard to. Now, I think Joss did a very good job of balancing those things out. I don't think he overpowered too many of the characters. He actually kind of toned them down, I think, to have them be reasonably working as a team.
Yeah,
and it makes as much sense as Batman hanging out with the likes of Superman, Wonder Woman, even Aquaman and Green Lantern. But when you have Captain Marvel is as powerful, if not more powerful, than almost any of the other Avengers. Yep. She certainly can stand up at a level of Tony Stark in his armor, and she may even be able to hold her own against a Thor or a Hulk, at least to some degree, and it depends on how they balance it in the films. She is a powered character, which is a different kind of movie, which is sometimes an easier sell than non-powered characters. Again, Cap was already powered, but in a very human way. He's just the peak levels of humanity. That's what the Super Soldier gave him. When you team him up with other characters like that, be it Black Widow, Falcon, and essentially Bucky, the Winter Soldier, that's a level that all of them hit together. So because Cap's movie already kind of made sense, and because they did involve Black Widow with that, I can see why they didn't do a Black Widow movie. And I don't want to say that it hinges on having two people together, but it would have been one of those things that the perfect thing to do would have been a Black Widow Hawkeye movie, because we saw them when they came in as a duo, but they've kind of broken that apart in the movies as they've gone along. So And also, honestly, Black Widow has never really been able to sustain her own comic for very long. And
Yeah,
that's one of those, up until the way Samney, I think, is the artist on it.
yep. Chris.
Black
Oh,
Widow
Chris
series.
Samney's doing the story too.
Yeah, up until that, I haven't seen a lot of Black Widow stuff that's had a great deal of success. I remember Greg Land did the artwork for a series where there were two Black Widows. There was the evil one from Russia, and Natasha had basically her identity stolen away, and so there were two of them running around for a while. But even that, I don't remember a lot of, and that was when they were just doubling everything to shit. Oh wait, that's what Marvel still does. Captain Marvel is something that is different, and they've been building Carol to this for a number of years, taking her out of the secondary character to the Marvel character, where she was essentially she was Miss Marvel for a long time, but then she became binary. She went through a lot of different phases to finally take over the role of Captain Marvel, and they said, you know, you should be at a power level and at a hero level of these other characters. Why aren't you? They said that in the context of a story. And while I think that they've done good things for her character and some really bad things, Civil War II, for her character, it's a different premise, and it brings a lot of the space stuff into place, which I think is also very interesting in a different respect than what they've been doing with both Thor and Guardians, because I think it's going to be local space as opposed to far away space.
Yeah, exactly. Our next story is a Lock and Key pilot is coming to us from Carlton Curse, and it is coming to Hulu. So we should point out, you talked about this on the latest episode of Pots.
We had Ben Granoff on there. God, I hope that's his last name. Yesterday, and he was, one, an excellent guest, and two, he was a little more up on the details of Lock and Key than I was. And Matt will attest to you that he does not read ever anything at all. So he was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm a drummer, so I don't read.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was.
And it's Carlton Cuse, by the way, so you can't make jokes about people not reading either.
I'm dyslexic, man.
I love you on trial and error. So Lock and Key, we'll get to the grid of it, is a comic book from IDW, written by Joe Hill, who you may or may not know is the son of Stephen King. What? And it was a comic series. They did 6 volumes of it, pretty much presented as miniseries, but they all tied into one thing. And it's a group of kids whose father is basically killed, and they all go and live in this manor. And in the manor, they find these magical keys that open different doorways. And they walk in the doorways, they get different powers. And it's not like powers like they become superheroes so much. The powers are a little bit more supernatural based, and a little bit more like sometimes even a bit of a curse or a Cuse, if you want, in the things that they do. And it's dark, it's horrific, but as I mentioned in the other show, the artist for it presents the characters in such a way that it looks slightly innocent. The kids look kid-like. And there's a beauty to the work, but it's kind of like the Hannibal TV series, where it's really beautiful to look at, but if you pay attention, it's actually also kind of disgusting. But yeah, have you read the comic at all?
I haven't. It's mainly one of those things, like, I don't have time to read the like a lot of these comics from the past, when I'm reading 30 to 40 issues a week of what's currently going.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I get angry at you because there's such good stuff out there from before.
And I understand.
And it's like, you fucking kids with your TV today and your Pac-Man and your goddamn, Dig Dug and shit. I just screaming at clouds.
Hey, Dig Dug was awesome. Don't you dare fuck with Dig Dug.
Oh, I don't fuck around with Dig Dug at all. I played the shit out of Dig Dug.
Yeah.
It wasn't no Marble Madness, I'll tell you that now.
But we should point out that the script is set to be an hour-long pilot. Cuse, sorry for butchering your name there, did Lost, Bates Motel, The Strain, and Jack Ryan. He will executive produce, essentially be the showrunner alongside Scott Dickerson, or sorry, Derrickson. Motherfuck, I read that too. I swear, it's just my brain's short-circuiting. Who directed Doctor Strange, and Lindsay Springer. Scott Derrickson will write or will direct the pilot, and I think might do more if it gets picked up for a series.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that this show has come about and has been attempted a couple of times, and for whatever reason did not get picked up before. So Hulu has ordered an actual pilot for it, which is great, and it's just like people are just waiting to see if this is going to actually happen, and I would like to see it happen. It's certainly one of those things where by this point in time they keep trying, which is good.
Yeah.
And Hulu's so hungry for content. You know, they really need to get their originals game up.
But they're doing it smartly. They're taking these chances on shows that if they're going to flop, they're going to flop hard. But if they're going to succeed, they're going to get them awards. I mean, I look at shows like The Path, which I don't watch, but is a highly acclaimed show. And like 11/22/63, which had hype behind it, but then fell, or whatever. I've heard mixed reviews on it now, and it seems like everything that they're doing, they're trying, but they're trying to for quality, not quantity, which you could almost say is what Netflix is doing on their end. Their Netflix is almost just doing like, oh, we got shows like Hemlock Grove, and it gets us very little numbers, but whatever, because those are numbers. Or we're going to be the U.S. distributor for a kids Canadian TV drama. Is it successful?
Well, I mean, Netflix at this point has so many shows that it's impossible to keep up with what's there, and you can't even know what it is that's coming out. There's just like I pop on Netflix a week after the last time looking at it, and it just seems like the Netflix originals just stretches further and further every time I log in. And and that's good, because it's the same thing. You want variety, you want to have a lot of choices, because that's going to cause people to, even if they don't necessarily like all those shows, they're going to just know, well, it's like the weather in Michigan. In a couple minutes, it's going to change. There's going to be something new here. There's going to be something else that's going to maybe grab my attention. You never know when the next hot thing's going to be there. Oh, and also on top of that, it's also that the things that you do like are going to have another season very quickly.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this way back when, which is you don't have to subscribe to Netflix continuously. You can drop out for a couple of months and then come back later. And it's not like those Netflix originals are going to go away. The only stuff that goes away is the stuff that they don't own. And that might wind up on a different station or subscription service anyways. So it might be even good to bounce around. But for the $8 to $10 a month that it costs for Netflix now, I don't even know. The bill just happens.
$10 for regular, $12 for 4K.
Yeah, it's like I don't even think about it. That's when I don't even think about it. I'm kicking myself so hard to like, should I try Hulu? Should I try Amazon Prime? And I'm not really sure it's worth it yet. And that's because in both those cases, I find the experience to be a little lackluster, and it bums me out a little bit that Amazon Prime pitches itself as like, oh yeah, you can stream all this stuff, except for all these other things that you would think would be on there but aren't, but you can just pay us for. That always sits wrong with me. And the Hulu thing, it was always the commercials and the poor placement and shit. They probably work past that now, I don't know. But this is the thing that I'm almost positive would get me to say, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna do Hulu for at least a month to watch this.
Yeah. And I mean, so to piggyback off of your Hulu thing, I look at Amazon Prime as, okay, yes, I have the service, but what does it for me is the fact that the only uh premium cable channel that I have, because it's included in my cable package, is Stars, and Stars Encore, which thank God they changed it from Encore to just Stars Encore, since it's the same thing. Um, but then there's, these shows that I want to watch that come out on other areas, and Amazon Prime gives me the easiest way to where I could just go into one place and get all these different things.
Get your
like
subscriptions to the other things.
Yeah.
It's the easiest one, except for the cable company that would love to just have your extra $10 for your HBO subscription a month. But instead you're going to someplace else, which I don't really know what to make of that. That seems a little funny to me.
For my cable bill, because
you don't pay for your cable. So if you just slipped your mom an extra 20 and said, "Hey, mom, HBO this month," make it happen. Buy yourself something nice. It just. I don't really understand that. I mean, that's the whole point of cable to me, is the convenience. And I'm a sucker. I need cable TV. I need live TV. I need something where I turn it on and I don't have to think at all. And that moment of I walk in the door and I just want some fucking noise on the background. I don't want to have to sit there and scan through different apps. I don't want to have to scan through 40 different fucking programs for my potential playlist of like, oh, what am I going to put? Because then it's just going to be pissed off that I'm not paying attention to it. Fucking Netflix is appointment watching for me. But the TV can just be the TV. And that's how it's been my entire life. And so I am not likely to give that up anytime soon. Cold dead hands is what you'll pry it from. My cold dead fucking hands are going to be tangled around that fucking remote that I can at least talk to now, because I can't press the button anymore because all my nails have grown into each other in the claw face. But it's just like, the only thing that I can say for what you do is that, again, you can say, I want to watch HBO for this month because I know Game of Thrones just finished up, and I can watch all the Game of Thrones episodes in a row and catch whatever else is on there and be done with it. Whereas cable, it's not as easy to grab and dump. You can, but you got to fucking deal with a Comcast person, and we know that that's just like literally liquid death being shoved inside your pee hole.
No, you're exactly right, because that's what I did with Comic-Con HQ. I had done the beta thing, loved it, loved some of the programming, and then came back once I'm like, I really want to watch Con Man Season 2. And watched Con Man Season 2, watched Mark Hamill's Pop Culture Quest, all within the 7-day free trial that I got through Amazon Prime. At which point I'm like, I looked at him like, is there anything else that really interests me here? No, I have because I have AT&T, I have full screen. I just did a survey for them for this at work, and I started watching Electro Woman and Dyna Girl on there back in January. I haven't finished it because it's one of those things where it's like I have to go to someplace else, and right now with WWE Network, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and then Comcast, that's like four places that I have to go right there alone. And there are subsets in there. The Amazon Prime, okay, it has HBO for Silicon Valley, probably through to Ballers, depending on how the schedule goes. And then I might drop that if there's this lull of stuff that I'm like, nothing interests me, and I might pick up the their anime strike or something like that, and just flip flop it like there, where like you said, it would be like, hey mom, I gotta call Comcast real quick. Hey, can you take off the HBO? Well, why do you want to get rid of HBO? Because Game of Thrones is over. Just take it off, you motherfuckers.
Yeah, at the same time, though, you might get that person at Comcast is like, well, how about we just give you HBO for free for 3 months? And you go, fuck yeah, keep sucking my dick. I don't know. Sure. It's like, but that's exactly it, because they will sit there and negotiate things with you. Now, there's the bullshit end of it, which is as soon as you hit your 12 months, fuck you. Hey, cable bills tripled. But if you play the game, if you're on top of it and you play the game, you can kind of win out sometimes. That's a thing. That's the haggle prospect versus the I just get to control the shit by saying, here's my card. Okay, now I'm taking my card back. Don't fucking touch it. I will kill
Yep.
you. I will kill you dead. I will pack you in an Amazon shipping package and will wait for the fucking drone to come pick your ass up and take you across the fucking Panama. As that may be, I have discovered with the X1 box, and then I replaced the other boxes with the new little mini X1 boxes that actually do the DVR stuff and get the apps. The Netflix app through X1 is far more convenient for us because we don't have to flip over to another input to get to our Netflix. We don't have to do any stupid bullshit that's like the built-in app on the TV, which almost never works. But also because our Wi-Fi can be a little spotty sometimes, and you're watching something and streaming, and all of a sudden you get that little bit of buffer, and that pisses me the fuck off, and I want to kill somebody. And Amazon box drone, Panama. You don't have that with Netflix on the Comcast. The other thing is I don't believe that watching Netflix through the Comcast app count towards any kind of data caps. So if you are a sort of person who worries about data caps or reaching your data cap, if your Netflix is through your Comcast box, you don't. Now, I would dump both of these pieces of shit immediately if Sonic, which is in my area, managed to get their 1 gigabit fiber to my house, which is a very real possibility. Because Sonic is, to me, a much more approachable company in more realistically what I want. And fucking 1 gigabit download speeds. At the same time, I've heard Comcast is moving up to 2 gigabit download speeds.
Yep.
I don't know that I would ever need that until I have it in front of me, and then I will stab people who come over to my house to try to get on my Wi-Fi because I got 2 gigabit download speeds, and I'm going to be fucking advertising that from the fucking hills. There will be smoke signals. So,
real quick, this will be the last part I'll make about this because we're off topic, but the whole switching things. All you gotta do is get yourself one of these, and for audio listeners, I'm holding up my Xbox One controller, because as you can see on the TV behind me, there's all the different. I can't see what the fuck I'm looking at right now, but there's all the different apps you put on your Xbox. You put on the Netflix, you put on the Hulu,
But that doesn't solve the problem with my Wi-Fi. Now, this is something that I've complained about before. Not complained, but recommended to the ether, which is Comcast. All of your cable boxes should be Wi-Fi repeaters for the cable modem, which already has Wi-Fi built in. That way, every room in your house that has a cable box, which you would love if we were fucking running your cable boxes for every room, would then give us better Wi-Fi throughout the house too. If you just turn my house into one big Comcast mesh network, then I would never think about anything except for the cancer in my nuts that you've caused me. I think that would be brilliant, but in the here and now, I could also hire someone to crawl into my house and just run a cable. I'm not smart, or I'm cheap. Let's go cheap, except for how much I pay for my cable bill. In the here and now, there are several things that are like that. My Roku is great for all the apps and stuff on there. My friends had the Wii U, and they were using that almost exclusively because there was Dick All for games. They were using that for a lot of the streaming services and stuff, and they loved it because it just changed things for them. It was so many light years ahead of the Apple TV, which I think still hasn't caught up to any of these other boxes at this point.
No,
I totally get that, but it still doesn't solve the live TV thing for me. And I know that there's a lot of services that do the new YouTube TV, the all these other ones, Sling TV and stuff. I get so much from my Comcast, and I am a creature of habit, that at this point in time, I'm not ready to go there yet. But I can see where we're going.
Yeah.
But it's also not just me. I have to please my wife because she's the one who can stand over me with a bucket of water in the middle of the night and says, I can't find my fucking horror movies. All right, yeah, babe, I understand it. Please put down the cat and leave the room, and I'll call Comcast in the fucking morning. So I know that it doesn't matter what I want.
Yeah, and also I will say, like I now with this Xbox One, not a sponsor, I have everything in. I only use 2 HDMI ports right now. I have the Xbox, and I have the cable box plugged into that, and then I have the Chromecast. Why? Oh, because
Yeah.
I do. um, but I've got everything through the Xbox. I turn on my Xbox in the morning. I turn on the TV right to the cable.
Yeah, I mean that was the
Is how
sexy thing about the Xbox to me because I had the
yeah
Google TV that was out
yeah
for a while. The Logitech Review, was it? God damn, it's been a long
yeah
time. And the fact that it had the throughput made so much more sense to me than what anybody else has done. But I also know that eventually, as that thing hit its hardware limits and started to have problems, that throughput thing stopped working well,
yeah
and it bummed me out. It was like one more thing in the way of me watching my TV as opposed to, like it's supposed to give me all this extra stuff. No, it just became an extra pain in my ass.
yeah. So Corey, I got a question for you.
Yes,
In the world of
8 inches.
modern tel-
Oh, what?
in the world of modern cinema, there has been one person in nerd culture who has transcended movie companies to appear in all of his properties. That man being Stan Lee, of course.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Um,
say Hitler. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about the Fox News conversation we're having earlier.
yeah. If I was smart, I would know the former head of Fox News. Be like, yeah, oh, you mean this dude? And
Roger
then
Ailes?
yeah, Roger Ailes. That's it. Um, but Stan Lee is set to make a cameo in next week's episode of Fresh Off the Boat. The first episode, or it'll air on May 2nd, and the episode is titled Pie versus Cake, and it sounds like he's doing a cameo for the B storyline.
By the way, the
And
the answer is always pie cake.
yes, the answer is always I'm fat. The answer is obvious, both.
Yeah, pie cake.
Duh. um so this whole next week is, as Beat is putting, is just going to be noise, because you start us off on Tuesday with Fresh Off the Boat, with a little bit of Stan Lee, where he is judging a comic book contest. You then go to Thursday night, Friday, with the premiere of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You then go to Saturday with Free Comic Book Day, and thank God I can actually go to Free Comic Book Day, because he's opening the shop at 10 and I don't got to go work until 11. Oh, hells yes. I've already got my free comic books picked out, because in this story is one of them. It is a Fresh Off the Boat comic book from Boom Studios, written by Luen Yang and Jorge Corona. Holy shit. Just sounds really great.
Yeah, the cover
Maybe I'm
for
more
it looks
excited
really
than,
cute
than
because
you.
they've done superhero versions of all the characters, and they're kind of cool looking. Boom has been knocking out of the park with a lot of their original stuff, but Boom also has done a lot of licensed properties, and they do right by their licensed properties. If you go back to when they were doing the
Yes.
Disney stuff before Marvel fucked up and took them back, and then couldn't do shit with Darkwing Duck, like it's fucking Darkwing Duck. You can make that shit easy, but you don't, because you're a bitch. Fuck you. But Boom does really cool stuff. This is just like, it looks really neat, and it makes sense. I like, it's the Legion of Dopitude featuring Lazy Boy. The costume designs work. I really think that it's a great little job they're doing. It is interesting to have this one shot based off of this show coming out for Free Comic Book Day, because I don't know how much of a usually a Free Comic Book Day is about getting people to try stuff out so they'll come back the next week and buy comics from the shop, when they don't normally. And I don't know what this is selling for the continuing subscriber. I assume it'll have some cameos or pages from other Boom comics, but still, it's fun. It's one of those things that if you're a fan of the show and you've never even thought about Free Comic Book Day, this might drive you to it.
Yeah. We've talked about Free Comic Book Day in years past, and this is the first time where I'm like, okay, I really want, and especially to be there. I'm gonna be there when Tim is opening the shop. So I'm slowly and slowly spending more and more money on comic books as I get more hours in this and raises and stuff like that. Because this last week I think I would have spent $30 but he gave me a discount where I only spent 28 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Which included Secret Wars #0 and Batman 21, which is the start of the button, and holy crap. Good God. Dude, I'm telling you, these four issues, Batman 21, I believe it's Flash 21, and then Batman 22, Flash 22. Pick them up. It is the first issue alone is so good. Read really quick in like 3 minutes because it's a lot of action.
Well,
And
according to my wife, I'm unable to find the button no matter how much time I spend on it. So I don't really know that that's going to work for me. It certainly doesn't work for her.
but no, I mean,
I'm just going to keep derailing things.
Pause to collect myself.
That's why I have the stock. No.
But I mean,
Sorry,
I'm honestly excited for. God damn it! I'm like public school education kid. I'm like, there's one there too.
Yep.
But I mean, like I said, this whole week for next week, I mean, it is really cool to see. You know, you're going to see Stan Lee playing himself in there, and then for Free Comic Book Day alone, which I mean, we've talked about Free Comic Book Day in years past, with giving previews of what's coming out, what you could possibly get from your comic book stores, and that's actually getting me to think, okay, how do I do my shit? Sorry, I just had a realization that I'll be getting a little bit of money from my commission check that week too, which I get on Thursday. Oh, sorry, done. Hopefully it's pretty good. But the cool part with this is it's the like normally you get your comic books on Wednesday. Some people might hold it off and then they'll get their comic books on Saturday and then also pick up a few extras and all that. I look at this as like honestly a discovery thing, like because I seen it last year mainly because I got there late and the ones that I wanted were already gone. But I looked and I'm like, wait, they made a Spectrum comic book, and picked that up and enjoyed that and wasn't able to find any more of it. But it's a cool thing for Discovery. I think the goal is to get people who are fans of Fresh Off the Boat to go to their local comic book stores to get this issue, and then to see all these other comic books that they might like.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Well, just the fact that they're having Stan Lee on the show and they're doing a comic crossover means that the people who do the show are probably comic book fans themselves, and that's essentially why they're doing it. We should mention, if you are interested in Free Comic Book Day, a couple of things. Yes, there are free comic books. There are absolutely free comic books. Not all comic books are free there, though. There are other things that you can and should buy. If you see stuff or you get a free comic book and really like it, call the store back and say, hey, I want to keep collecting this. Can you put me on a pull list? And potentially they could get you those issues of a series that you discover that day. Now, sometimes ordering makes it a little tough for that because you have to pre-order a couple of months ahead of time. But it's always worth seeing. If you don't know if you have a local comic book shop, you can call 1-888-COMIC-BOOK, or you can go to comicshoplocator.com, and it will help you find the comic shops that are local to you. And if nothing else works, you can always go to Comixology. The app, I believe, often has the free comic books available for download on Free Comic Book Day.
Yes. Yeah, it's usually a little bit later, but it will have most, if not all of them. And also cut that out so I can use that for the end of the pull list. But the other cool part with Free Comic Book Day, yeah, thank you, Uncle Joey. The other part with Free Comic Book Day is the fact that a lot of comic book stores will have artists and writers come in. A lot of the comic book writers and artists, that we read every week, will go to their local comic book stores, do like a meet and greet, stuff like that, just be there with their fans as they're hopefully buying their comic books and supporting their friends in the comic book industry here. And yeah, I mean, everything Corey just said with the whole, 1-800 comic book locator.com.
888 comic book.
Yeah, 888 comic book. Sorry. Don't go to 800. That's a porn one. But yeah, so.
Or it's 1-800 cars for kids, and you're gonna get that goddamn jingle stuck in your head for the next 6 months.
I don't know the jingle. I do not want to know the jingle. I already had a jingle in my head earlier. But that is going to do it here for the news, and we will be right back.